Thank you, Sienna. Thank you, Rosalie.
Right.
Hey. David, I'm
Carol,
so glad
thank
you're
you.
here, representing along with Austin, all of our favorite male
We got some great
partners.
male allies too on the call. Love to see that.
Do we really? I can't really see
so
from here.
Sean and Adam and Brian, I can see.
Is that my Adam Clifford?
I think so.
Yeah.
So I realized just recently that you are Adam's mother-in-law?
Yes, I think that's how y'all heard of me.
Oh,
Adam.
Yes, Adam jumped in on one of our planning calls, our first one. He's like, I've got the woman for you.
He volunteered me.
Well, Adam is fantastic. Adam Clifford, for those of you here at Concurrency, if you haven't worked with him yet, he is fantastic. He's one of our technical architects. So reach out to him if you haven't already had the chance to work with him. And hopefully he's on the call.
He is? He says hi.
Hi, Adam. Who else do we have on the call? How many callers? I don't know what time it is, but we can probably get started.
Got 19 callers.
All right, 311. Sounds like that's a lucky number or something, 311. Well, welcome to Concurrency, everyone here in the room. And I think we have people that are live in our Minneapolis office. How many people do we have in Minneapolis? I know I asked Teresa earlier, but probably about 10 people, maybe more. Anyway, welcome those of you attending live in Minneapolis, and all of the rest of you callers. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Kate Weiland Moores, and I am the Chief Operating Officer here at Concurrency. I have been in information technology for 28 years, and I'm really proud of that. I say it a little reluctantly because I can't believe it's been that many years. But I've been in information technology, starting off as a recruiter in IT tech. And I was very young recruiting for mainframe, COBOL, CICS, DB2 programmers. And they were not young 20-something-year-old girls out of college. So it was a challenging job. I eventually started my own business and ran my own women-owned business for 10 years, and stayed in recruiting in IT, and also did a lot with organizational change management and really embracing leadership in women. And I hired I have 2 daughters of my own too. And I joke and say, well, I sort of failed because neither of my daughters wanted anything to do with IT or recruiting or leadership. Something. Well, that's all right.
They're still young.
I'll have other chances, right? And everybody has their own journey, right? So leadership's not for everyone. But one thing I'm excited to hear Diane today, our keynote, and I will introduce her momentarily. But when I was really thinking about this topic of leadership, it's so near and dear to me. And it's not because you have to manage another human, right? It's because you have to really think about leading your own life, leading your own career, and what can you control day to day around you, things that impact you and things that impact others. So I can't wait to hear all of the great advice you offer today. Concurrency has been around since 1989, and I've been working with Concurrency since they were an itty bitty baby company of only 10 people. And that was about 15 years ago. Concurrency is a premier level Microsoft partner and a multi-year Microsoft partner. What am I trying to think? Partner of the Year award winner. And we're very, dedicated to just hiring great people, building their careers around the Microsoft technologies. Not to forget ServiceNow, for those of you who may be on the call from ServiceNow. We do also have a strong partnership with that vendor. But really, looking to bring in amazing talent into Concurrency, grow careers, and really help our customers better their business and better their clients' business. So that's what we do. And Congruency is what kind of started this event. And Congruency is something that I started probably, Sarah, 10 years? 8 years ago. Just kind of got a group of all of the women that work for Concurrency together. I think the first event was just like a cookout at my house. And Sarah, I think you're the one that coined it congruency. It's like the girls at Concurrency.
It's a fun name.
And it's just a fun name. And, we get together and, it really started off just sort of casual and just, having that camaraderie. But then it grew into something even more important and more spectacular. It really turned into something more serious where we would really talk about topics that were really important to us. Anything from, topics around diversity to, the challenges that we have in raising children and or balancing our workload, how to deal with difficult people in the workplace. I mean, so many different topics. And, it's a little bit more of an intimate setting for us to be able to share. I'm really, really proud of this group. I'm proud of all of the employees at Concurrency for embracing this group and embracing the important topics that we raise each and every day. So thank you. I do want to acknowledge Sarah Berkey, who has really worked hard to put this together. We have a committee, Elisa, who's here. Thank you so much, Elisa. Teresa, who's on the phone. She's our practice manager out of Minneapolis. Sammy, hopefully Sammy's on the call. Claire, who's here in our audience today, and next to her, Devyani. Thank you for spearheading and putting all of your heads together to create this really cool event. My favorite event of the year, actually. Before I turn things over to Diane, I first want to introduce Allison Spahn. Allison Spahn is the president-elect of Women in Technology, WIT. For those of you who are not familiar with it, you will soon be. And I personally have been part of Women in Technology on and off over the years. Just great organization, and I'd love for you to say a few words.
Should I come up there?
Yeah, sure, come on up.
Actually be a camera?
Yes.
Right, see all your lovely faces. Afternoon, everyone. Like Kate said, my name is Allison Spahn. I have been a member of WIT Wisconsin for about 1.5 years now. I'm only about 2 years into my professional career so far. So if you're not familiar, WIT Wisconsin is a nonprofit organization primarily ran by volunteers. We have one executive director who is our sole employee. But our mission is really to attract, grow, and retain female tech talent from the classroom all the way through the boardroom. We do that primarily through 3 pillars. We have WIT for Girls, which focuses on introducing girls to technology really young, so I think elementary up through high school, showing them what opportunities there are. We have WIT on Campus, which focuses on supporting female students in STEM degrees, giving them mentorship, support to get them through in their degree into their field. And then our biggest pillars are WIT at Work, which focuses on development for professionals through networking, professional development, skill development events. And that's really kind of where we operate. If anyone's interested in learning more about how to get involved or more about what we do, feel free to find me afterwards.
Thank you so much. So it's Allison Spahn, and we could probably put Allison's contact information in the link for this so that we can all find and connect with you. Thank you. Definitely a great organization to be a part of. So I look forward to seeing all of us there in the future. All right, I'm excited to introduce Diane Doersch. Diane is, as we know now, related to Concurrency since we found out about Diane and her background through Adam. But currently the Senior Director of Information Technology with a company called Digital Promise. I love that name, Digital Promise. So primarily it's a nonprofit, right, focusing at all different levels of education, spurring innovation across that platform and that industry. So excited to have you here today to talk about leadership, and I know we have a lot to learn, and appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow. I have to say that when I was invited, Adam, again, my son-in-law brought my name up, right? And Sarah gave me a call, and she said, Diane, do you want to do the keynote? And I was like this cat, right? I'm like, what? Me? And you want me to talk about myself? Really? I mean, who does that? Who talks about themselves for a whole presentation? You want to know the goods and the bads? and all the things in my life of how I've gotten here, that's a lot. And truthfully, I had to really think about this because who talks about themselves for 45 minutes? So that's why I want to make sure that I talk about leadership as well, because leadership is something I learned from my stories. In fact, my stories are kind of like the game of chutes and ladders, right? And I found this lovely little game online. For those of you who may remember this, because it's an older game, you roll a die and you progress through the squares. When you get to a square that has a ladder, that's great. You get to go up the ladder. Yay, you get closer to your goals. But then sometimes you hit a square that has a slide. And take a look at the slide. No one ever liked the big long slide because you have setbacks, right? And you have to work harder to get to your goals. And I really feel, as Sarah and I were talking about this, I said, it's kind of like a chutes and ladders game. And so that's how I got to that title. And I appreciate Sarah for kind of pushing me out of my comfort zone a bit, because like I said, who talks about themselves? Excuse me, I've got to plug stuff in here. So this is new. And I appreciate also my colleagues. I brought this to my circle of people and I rehearsed and I got feedback from them so I could make this better for you. So what about me? Well, these are the things that I value. Family, service to others, and wholeheartedness. And you might say, well, what does that mean, Diane? This is our family. Maybe you see Adam here in the suit standing up in the back. I'm a girl mom. I've got 4 daughters. And so we've got Danielle, our oldest over here, and then we've got Dara, Adam's husband, and we've got Deanna, married to Brock, and Delaney with Carter, my husband Dean, and Miriam, our grandbaby. Have you noticed we're all D's? Diane Doersch, Dean Doersch, and all the daughters are D's. In fact, my husband had to have a boy dog. His name was Diego. So we have a lot of D's. But that is our family. So I value family. I also value service to others. I started out as an early childhood teacher, then an elementary education teacher. I had an aptitude toward technology, so I eventually became a director of technology and then became chief technology and information officer for Green Bay Area Public Schools. I was retired for a full weekend, and then I moved to Digital Promise. It allowed me to continue to do what I love, but work remotely. My parents were in assisted living, and they wanted to move out in the worst way. They wanted to move back to the family farm. And who gets out of assisted living, right? Unless you die. So it really did work that they got released from assisted living. And so I retired when I turned 55 and moved back to the farm so I could help care for them. So that's why I am now the Senior Director of Information Technology, and also just random things, President of Northeast Wisconsin Women in Technology. We've got 4 regions, and I'm the National Chair for the Consortium of School Networking, which is an association for Chief Technology Officers and Directors of Technology for school districts. I think the most important thing, though, is the blue box, in my opinion, right? I'm a daughter, I'm a caregiver. Maybe you are seeing yourself in that position. I'm a partner. I'm a mom, and I'm a Grammy. Maybe not a lot of you are Grammys yet. And I'm also a community servant, right? I work with the Iola Chamber of Commerce and the Iola Winter Sports Club to make my community better. So those are things that I do. And wholeheartedness is the last thing. If you are a fan of Brene Brown, I love how she talks about, let's let go of all the stuff on the left, right? And let's move to cultivating ourselves. Let's go to the right-hand side. And so those are things I believe, instead of me trying to be a perfectionist and be perfect, I need to be more self-compassionate. And instead of comparing myself to others, I need to appreciate my creativity. Okay, and so you can find this graphic online. if you're looking for it. Now, I said you're going to interact with each other, and good thing you're sitting next to people. I just shared with you what I value. Okay, I want to make you think a bit. We're going to take 2 minutes. That's it, just 2 minutes. So you got to be thinking in your head, what do you value? And I want you to turn to your neighbor and share that. Okay?
And maybe people on the call could chat it.
We can chat it. Yes. Okay, 2 minutes. Go.
How many people are in this room? Okay.
I don't know about one.
Okay.
All together.
We're very, yes, or we can do, yes.
Oh, not only just as a journalist, but my camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also value we can disagree about something, talk it out, and really understand each other
Is it?
without ever.
I think for me, the one that came to my mind is where it was like authenticity. Like
You know what I mean?
it's all empathy, accepting for that, and
Banter back and forth.
finding that in a society that is so do everything.
We don't ever put it inside. Hold grudges. And pick up on the
Okay, we're about halfway done.
Like it's even more important. Like I have to realize that it's a village to raise a daughter, lean on each other as your parents.
And that is a great approach. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't, it's just all.
Do you have kids? She was like, because I value my peace.
So I lied, I really did like it. But it's a weird thing to think of it, because I had them when I was little.
So I think that really
inherited them.
Now we go 10 more seconds.
That's great when you get a box of stuff from your child. Yep.
They look awesome, and it's really highlight. My husband has like why like so difficult and challenging sometimes. We're like, I need to know this not so. That's why there's lobbying.
Okay, so you get to know a little bit more about your neighbor. Maybe you didn't know your neighbor before, but you know them now, right? In this 2 minute values exercise. So thank you for that, because again, you know, our values drive everything we do, right? And so we have to think about those things, and I'm sure they're always on the top of your mind as you go along in your life, work and in non-work times. So what I'm going to do is share with you strategies for success. And it's going to follow this formula. I'm all about, you know, having a structure in order to run things. And so you're going to hear a story. You're going to hear a lesson learned. And then I'll tie it to a leadership strategy. Okay, so we also do have a lovely handout for you at the end. So you do not have to write down all the strategies. They're right here for you. Okay, so that should be helpful. Okay, first of all, oh, look at this. Why aren't my pictures showing up? This will really stink. I did not test the photos. Let me do a refresh. This is problem solving, right?
Yeah.
At its best.
Bonus strategy today.
Yeah, okay, now they are here. Thank goodness. Because, you know, the pictures, the cute pictures are half of it, right? Okay, here we are. So understand and appreciate from where you came. I was born in the country of Thailand, and I was brought to the United States when I was a year old. I had parents who came from the state of Wisconsin. They were farm kids, okay? And Dad had just gotten through seminary, and they were working in Iowa, and Dad got an invitation to go and preach and serve as a missionary in Thailand. And my parents told me the story over and over again, how my mom was working at the bank and how he went to the bank and said, how do you feel about going to Thailand? And these are two white kids in their late 20s, right? And they said, why not? Let's do that. So I give them credit for that. Farm kids who had never been out of the state of Wisconsin. They adopted me. Mom had to have surgery in Thailand, and it caused her to not have children. And so they said, we want to get a baby from Thailand. They went to an orphanage and visited babies there, and they did not find a connection. And one Sunday, it sounds like, my parents' interpreter, their translator, came and visited them and said, I know of a family who is giving up a baby for adoption. Would you like to go visit the baby? Well, they said, yes, let's do that. And again, both parents told me the story about when they met me for the first time and how we made eye contact. And my mother said to me, there were angels in the room. So it was meant to be. It was meant to be, and I feel so fortunate for that. I was brought to the U.S. then when I was a year old. I grew up in Grand Forks, North Dakota, because what does a pastor do when they don't want to pastor anymore? They get other degrees. And so my father was working on his psychology degree. As a young kid, I was an only child. So, you know, my parents allowed me to do a lot of stuff. I swam, I was in gymnastics, I danced, I learned German, all that kind of stuff. But I was different. I was different from the kids in Grand Forks, North Dakota, right? Dark hair, different colored eyes, skin. Kids weren't nice to me. They, you know, that was a time when we were coming out of Vietnam and those types of things. Kids were not nice. And so I did experience a lot of being different, a lot of racism, a lot of prejudging, a lot of exclusion, all those types of things. I became a citizen when I was 8 years old. As I got older, you know, I then eventually grew up with more kids in central Wisconsin, white kids. And I grew up like a white kid. But it was when I became a teacher that I started getting connections with students who were not white. And that was more of my time to learn about who I am. I'm still learning. In fact, I will turn 60 this year, and I will turn 60 in Thailand. I've never been back to Thailand, and we booked the trip, and I hope I get my passport in time. Okay, but one thing I've learned is it's my children who say to me, what kind of people are we? Who are we? Why are my eyes like this? Why is my skin like this? Why am I like this? And so it's their quest that has forced me to say, okay, let's go to Thailand. So my husband and I booked, and they invite themselves along, which is fine. But what I've learned is that there are families who have stories, right? When I was chief in Green Bay Area Public Schools, we had families who came from other countries due to things that were really bad. And being able to provide a place for them, being able to help them feel welcome, being able to hire people who look like them so the kids see the faces serving them who look like them, that was important to me. And so that's a lesson that I learned, is that embracing culture is important. We need to appreciate from where we came. And also, you know, every one of us may have to revisit ourselves. As we think about our values, who are we? Okay, you know, a lot of it came from your heritage and the way you grew up, whether good or bad. And so, you know, a lesson learned here and how I apply it is making sure that we have access for all our families. That's, you know, in Green Bay, we made sure that we translated into the major, you know, the most popular languages. We made sure that we were out in the community helping families understand how technology is going to help their child and all those types of things. Because, again, we are a global society. After that, I talked about growing up in North Dakota. My parents divorced. I was 8 years old. And my mom, after that, it was just me and my mom, and that's us down in the lower right when I say be your own hero. It was just my mom and me. Mom did not really make it through that divorce well. I think she had a lot of confidence issues and just had a hard time moving through. It was just me and my mom. And so at a young age, it was me trying to help our family along, right? It was just us out in North Dakota, mom and me, and it was tough. And so I learned very early on to be a caregiver. I moved back to Wisconsin with mom because this is where mom's family lives, and my mom met a farmer. And so she married a 40-year-old farmer, and we moved to a farm in central Wisconsin, and that's where I live now. I live on the farm in Iola, Wisconsin. And, you know, during that time, my stepfather and I did not get along very well. And because of that, you know, again, home life wasn't the best. I became a mom at age 16. And so this is me and Danielle. Okay, and this is me my senior year. Okay, who has a 2-year-old by the time they graduate high school, right? Again, I learned early on, very rarely do young women graduate from high school with a child, but I did. And they elected me president of our class, in fact. They're like, Diane, you have your act together, so you're going to be our president. And that's a lesson. If you're president senior year, forever you're doing the class reunions, right? So you know that. But anyway, and you know what? I never thought I would not go to college. I think it was being able to rely on myself early on. It's like, oh, you know, kids have high school problems and they've got this and that. It's like, well, I've been through a whole bunch, and that's a nickel problem. I've been through dime and dollar and $2 problems. I'll be able to make it through college. It took me 5 years, but I did get through college. And again, you know, being your own hero as a lesson learned, when we take on jobs and tasks, sometimes you have to be your own hero, right? Because there's not always a support system for you. And so maybe like when I became director of technology in NENA, my first job was to build a $1.2 million fiber optic network. And so it was me and the guy who is digging ditches, project managing the whole thing. And I learned a lot about how to lay fiber, which helped me in Green Bay because we built a lot of, we went our last mile on a lot of things in Green Bay. But I had to learn it. And if I didn't, no one was going to sweep in and save me, right? And so the be your own hero really was a lesson that I had learned early on. Tenacity wins. What is the word tenacity? That's the fierce blend of determination, persistence, and grit, and a whole bunch of hair, right? Yes, that was me in my 90s hair where it filled my whole school picture up, right? My teacher picture. But on this one, for tenacity, okay, that's sticking with stuff. And being a mom, you can imagine, I didn't start my homework, my college homework until 9 o'clock, right, at night, and just ended when the homework got done. There were a lot of things that my high school friends were doing I couldn't do. I didn't do because I was a parent. And so sticking with things during hard times is really important. And it could have been easy to jump ship. It could have been easy to say, you know, well, you know, I'm not like everyone else, and my situation is different, and so the world needs to come to me. But again, I knew that I had to be my own hero, right? And so I had to stick with things. Now, this bottom picture, this is me in jazz class at a recital. Am I a glutton for punishment or what? But I do these things intentionally to push myself out of my comfort zone. And learning something new at this age, learning something new and learning it in your head and your body is a lot tougher than when I was 20 and 30. In fact, you know, I had to stick with these things a long time, and finally recital time comes and you're just happy that you can be done with it because you've practiced so much. But tenacity wins. And so those are the things that I think are so important that, you know, a thing that I'm finding is helpful in that, and that I learned, is when you build systems, it makes tenacity easier. Here's an example. I hated writing RFPs, okay, requests for proposals, long documents, contractual language, technical stuff. I hated it. My line was, have I told you how much I hate writing RFPs? But I had a really good mentor who said, Diane, I love writing RFPs because I have created a template. And because I have the template, I can just put different things in depending on whether you want services or goods. And we work closely with our attorney. We had our language together and things. And it made RFP writing so much easier because I had a salad bar of things I could pick from, right? Same with interview questions. How many of you have interviewed people? Well, you say, okay, let's write questions. Keep them in a bank and categorize them so you can pull them out, right? So systematize things, and it helps so that you do not have to be as tenacious. Okay, so hopefully that's something that can be helpful to you as well. Okay, let's see. I've got this in as a marker here because I've got a question for you, and let's see how. Oh, look at, I have the what do you value, which we do not have. Okay, I want to go to this one. Oh, I haven't gotten to all of them yet. I'm going to hold off on this. Excuse me. Because I'm going through a couple things, I am getting out of order in myself. I didn't write it down on my notes. Another thing that needs tenacity is being strong about having more women in the field of technology. If you take a look at the numbers, NCWIT, which is the National Center for Women in Technology, okay, always has great stats, great infographics and things. You can find a lot of things there. But look at this, 57% of professional occupations are held by women. Great, over 50% of occupations. But then when we look at technology, oh my gosh, only 27% of these jobs in professional computing are held by women. And when we look at leaders, female leaders in the C-suite, we can see in Fortune 500 companies, only 23% of our women are rising to those leadership levels. Okay, it's not our fault. We do build groups like Women in Technology to build a community around things. But there is such a syndrome, I don't know if you've heard it, called the climb and kick syndrome. Climb and kick syndrome means that there is research out there to show that when women rise sometimes and break new ground, you would think they would be more likely to hire women behind them, and they don't. Okay, they hire men instead. And so just that bothered me. I heard that like 5 years ago, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Why is this happening? And again, that is another reason for women in technology. And Allison, thank you for sharing about that. We are 8 years old. I was one of the founding board members, and one of the main things we wanted to do was make sure that we built a sisterhood within technology. So many people have jobs, women have jobs that are related to technology, and there's always the question, do I belong? Yes, you belong. We have engineers who come, do I belong here? Yes, you belong here. We have men who come, do they belong? Yes, you belong here. Okay, technology is for everyone, and we as a system need to get better at including more people. And we'll learn a bit more about this in the next slides. But what I love about Women in Technology is it does give a group of people. And when Kate talked about, having congruency, the circle, it sounds like exactly that's what that is. And so being able to look at all the smiles. Being able to provide opportunities for women to talk professionally about things, to do things that are fun and relaxing, because we know we have to be wholehearted, right? And Allison, and I'm sorry, what was your name? I'm sorry.
Cassie.
And Cassie were talking about a WIT event where they were arranging flowers, and that was just a couple weeks ago. Because again, yes, we work hard. We need to enjoy and appreciate others, each other as well. And so that's what Women in Technology is. And you can see the 3 pillars here. I will probably say I started WIT for Girls. I said, you know what? That's great that we're thinking about women in higher education institutions, but you know, when young women actually screen themselves out of things, I was a computer apps teacher. I taught middle school computers, and many people will say middle school is the time. It's actually elementary. We have to have our young girls feel strong and confident in technology in their elementary years, because when they make that jump to middle school, they could screen themselves out right there. Those classes are for boys, or I don't want to be in a class where it's mostly boys. And so how can we build systems that are going to support our young women? Okay, enough of the public service announcement. We'll get back to the stories. You're remarkable, believe it. Okay, being an only child, my mother thought I could do nothing wrong. Even after having a child at 16, she felt I could do nothing wrong. In fact, she instilled in me confidence that I wonder why I even have it. Okay, I think I'm overconfident sometimes. Here's an example, this being the Milwaukee area. When I turned 55, there's a group called the Bucks Grand Dancers. Have you ever heard of them? Okay, their jerseys have their age on it and everything. Well, pandemic broke out, so I'm like, I can't do that. Moved to Iola, but then I saw the invitation. I'm like, I am gonna do that. And so I went by myself down, to Milwaukee, and went into the stadium or the wonderful court, and I can say I center court on the Buck dancing. There were hundreds of people trying out. It was pretty awesome. I did get word because they asked me to take a drug test and all those things. So I figured, maybe I made it. And yes, I did make it. Had a long conversation with the coach. I said, well, I'm assuming you practice once a week. She's like, oh no, Diane, we practice twice. I live 2.5 hours away from Milwaukee. So two practices in a week and a game was too much for me. So I had to say no to that. But maybe when I'm not working a 40-hour-a-week job, I will do it. But that's that confidence, I think, that my mom gave to me, because it's like, oh, well, okay, maybe I can do that. I don't know. I'll try it. I'll see. And so, those things about being remarkable, people tell you that, and you might say, I'm just a schlup doing my job. I really am. I'm nothing special, but you are remarkable. And the thing is that we have a tape in our head that compares us to others, that tells us or reminds us of the bad things that we did, that we did wrong, and all those types of things. And one thing that I found to be very liberating is to just let go of that. That wholeheartedness slide, that's what that's all about. I'm not going to worry about comparing myself or hitting myself over the head with mistakes I've made in the past. I'm going to think about my future. I'm going to think about how I'm not going to do those dumb things that I did and move forward. And so when I say you're remarkable, believe it. Okay, make sure that you always just get rid of that tape, that negative tape in your heads, and keep moving forward. Because I could have said, I'm the dorkiest dancer around, and so I'm not going to try out. But it worked. Okay, so here we go. Professionally speaking, I kind of let you know how I got here. Okay, but now I'm going to give you some time to talk to your neighbor regarding professionally, how did you get here? Okay, And so we're going to take 5 minutes on this, a little more time for you, so that you can talk about how you got here. So take some time now. 5 minutes, friends. I'm asking you all these heavy questions.
Construction at a large company. Okay. And I worked there for like professionally. And they like needed 40% of their employees off.
Yeah, I have to be like I'm talking about family.
At a large organization. So I knew I wanted to and that's how I narrowed down my search. Looking for another job. But other than that, like I knew I didn't know I wanted to be in the technology world. But I knew I wanted to work for a company that was smaller. Have leadership. It felt like a family, all that good mushy stuff.
That is so cute. I made it. Hey, Dennis. Hey, Jennifer.
I decided to come to college because I felt that when I was interviewing and after meeting everybody, I knew
We're just sharing how we met.
then I just said, yeah, well,
Great. There you go. Oh, no worries. Come here.
You're at the start.
I went to Courtney.
I know. And I was like, oh, he introduced himself and the guy he was with was like, yeah, I was doing something here. It's nice to meet him. Technology. And then, let's do it the old way. Yeah, I didn't know the technology. So I actually had to write to your class. But then like, I'm not regular music. So, but I really enjoyed it. For me, it was all an activity. Okay. I ended up in it, just like, yeah, something I had and then I learned it from the ground up.
It's been really.
Not that I was really
audio and video production with the intention of like
Here I am today.
and then that would
So I started with them. I started with them back in 1989. I just started part-time, like about, so I had maybe full-time just started up part-time. Also,
but I like had a carbon copy of the first Photoshop when I was I just didn't have with them and I just like I and then I went so I'm like that's me. So I just started I switched that to like then I got so I was there in the company. I was like, this is like, I was like, wait, I was like, God. And like, I'm struggling to figure it out. And so I've always just been that like, well, if I don't know it, then I can learn it type of person. Like, much to my toes sometimes when there's something kind of interesting and then there's yeah. So then that
This is very fun. So otherwise they're gonna. Oh, here, I'm gonna do. Turn the mic on. It's like.
Provides more opportunities so that you're not as scared when the time comes. Okay, that's why we have fire drills. That's why you go to your basement, and have tornado drills in April, right? All those things. We have drills so that things are not as scary. What happened here? I got a phone call. There we go. Okay, so anyway, fear is okay because the lessons learned are it causes you to plan. And having plans, okay, you can't plan for everything, but at least you've gone through those exercises. And when you can name the fear, it somehow helps it become less, right? I think of Monsters, Inc. Remember the monsters in the closet? And you talk about the fear, you name the fear, and then you move on from that. Okay, I am now going to back out of here because you've got your phone. And I want to put this question before you. I've talked about 5 strategies thus far. I've talked about don't forget from where you came, or to be your own hero, or that tenacity wins, or that you're remarkable and you need to believe it, or fear is okay. Which one resonated with you? What is the lesson that you might bring back? We've got people just getting in, I can tell from the lower right corner. Those of you playing from home, you can do this as well. You can go to menti.com and put that code in that is in the top of the screen, and that will allow you to vote. Okay. Everyone reacts differently to things. Everyone has different experiences. And so, isn't that interesting? See, you are remarkable. I love that. Hey, getting back to that one, I think about my parenting, right? I mean, I wish my kids would say to me, Mom, you always said, that I could do no wrong, and you are always so confident in me, and you helped make me confident. I'm not sure they could say that. So I hope if you're listening, children, I hope that you are now confident due to our past. Okay, well, thank you, because you are remarkable. It's been pretty popular so far. Okay, let's keep going on then. When you're wrong, admit it. You can imagine my late 20s. I had to be a fighter for a really, really long time. And I had to be stubborn, and maybe stubborn helped me at some times. But you know what? It really didn't. because when I got into a functional relationship with my husband and knew how normal people acted, okay, I knew that there was something inside me that I needed to do. I needed to make sure that when I was wrong, I needed to admit it. Think about how many years it took me to be that stubborn person, and to try to undo that immediately, it's not really possible, but I am grateful for the patience of my husband and my family. When I became a leader, I did learn that, especially, at work, when you do someone wrong, you need to be brave and talk to them about it. Not talk about around their back, okay? Not talk about them, but actually be brave to have those conversations before you talk to your supervisor or talk to your best friend or whatever. So I do recall there was a time I did a reorganization, and I talked about at a staff meeting, and there was one person I did not inform ahead of time. And that was bad, right? It was bad. And so I went and talked to her afterward, and I apologized. And I also knew that would take a while before she would trust me again, because that was a public humiliation. And so I did, I did what I could to make it right. And I will say, that we did turn our relationship around. I make mistakes. And so what I said was lesson learned, lesson learned. I learned a lesson on that one. And part of being sorry is not making the same mistake again. And so think about that, because for me, this was one of the hard ones. And at work, I knew I needed to be a good leader and model those things for others. And it's hard sometimes to admit. And, sometimes you're surrounded by people who want to capitalize off a mistake that you made. And so talking about the lesson you learned, talking about the things that you will do to prevent that from happening again, and being positive about things is helpful. Owning up to what you're being accountable for it. If there are other people involved, don't point the finger at them. Something I talked about, or often, is a gap. We had a gap there. I don't know how it happened, but there's a gap and we need to fix it. Does it do any good to go back and say so-and-so didn't get this done on time? No, it doesn't, right? It just makes people not want to be part of your team. And so those are some of the lessons that I learned about when you're wrong, admit it. Love and serve others. I love this one. You can see these are my 4 daughters. And the youngest one, Delaney, went to UW-Madison. She's in the Peck School for the Arts. She's a filmmaker. And I love that it was her junior or senior year. She had an opportunity in college to serve as an assistant on some remote thing. They were in upper Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, all over the place. But she said, I'm going to also suggest that this other female of color have an opportunity as well. I'm not going to move forward unless she can as well. And that's a kid who's not even in their 20s yet, right? And she's saying these things. And so, well, early 20s. And she's saying these things. I thought, I love this next generation. If everyone's like that, where they're saying, I'm not moving forward until someone else comes with me, okay, that is a great opener right there. And that's part of what got me to leadership, because I was the wing person for others. And then when the main person got too busy, okay, they came to me because I was a wing person. And so the more you can help and boost others up, it's going to come back to you, because you will get different things as a result of you helping others. And I thought with Delaney, that was a great example. So when I get asked to, serve on panels or this or that, if I can't do it, or even if I do it, I say, well, is there another female? Or here are some names of some people of color that I think would be great for this, or other things, so that we can bring and be inclusive of others within the field. that ties back to the service of my parents, right? Because they were missionaries. That was their job, to serve. And I think that's something that I have always taken on because of that. Okay. Ways to serve others. I said I would talk about this. As we talk about serving, here are some different ways. You can be a thought partner, okay? And you can, just be that person that spitballs with someone else. You could collaborate with someone on a project and work as a group. I'm sure you've heard of mentoring, okay? I am the product of some great mentors, but acting as a role model and sounding board, steering people clear of what they should avoid, and I've done plenty of that. But I've found the best one is sponsorship. The sponsor puts their professional reputation on the line to introduce the colleague to their circles and acts as a brand manager. I don't think I would have gotten my job in Green Bay had not one of the males that I had worked with, who was my supervisor in Nina, happened to mention to someone from Green Bay area public schools, when I wasn't around, mind you, I wasn't in the room, but he said to someone in Green Bay, you should consider Diane and encourage her to fill out the application. And so a sponsor talks about someone when they're not in the room, right? I know the perfect person for this. Here's stuff that they've done, and I think they would be great for this project. I believe that men are in circles that women are not in and probably don't want to be in, but men have a great opportunity to be sponsors. And Dave Savage, I'm saying your name out loud there because you are a male ally, regarding someone who is supportive and will talk about others in a positive way when they're not in the room. I know their work, and this person would be great for it, and those are just good leadership things to do. Okay, 2 more to go. Nurturing your soul. We've talked about this a bit, and for nurturing your soul, that's something that as a kid I loved to do. I got artsy fartsy. I played piano. I cooked. I crocheted. All that stuff. Then had kids. You couldn't do any of that stuff. And now I'm back to being able to take some time. For those of you who may follow me on Twitter, every weekend you'll see me and fish because I have a fishing kayak, and on Saturdays I just love to catch fish, take a picture of them, and release them again. And so taking time to nurture your soul is important. And as a supervisor, encouraging others to nurture their soul and to take time off is important as well. Again, the things that I would say to my people, it's like, take the time. Yeah, okay, you have a personal date. Go do that with your daughter. Go do those things. Or everyone, I'm taking a day off, one of my personal days to do this, and be a good role model about it, because that is so important to nurture your soul. And the last one is to always have hope. I really can't imagine the anguish that my birth mother, my Thai mother, must have gone through to decide to give me up for adoption. Again, my Wisconsin mother says when the time came for the handoff, there were a lot of tears. And every Mother's Day comes, and I remember a speech that my mom gave at church about that handoff and how important that was. But it was my birth mother's thought that I would have more opportunity in the United States. And I think that's part of, as lessons learned, part of what drives me, because I feel very fortunate to be here right now in front of you. You heard my story, the chutes and ladders, the ups and downs and things like that, and I'm right here in front of you right now. And again, I can only hope that my birth mother is proud of me for the things that I've done. So as I parent my 4 daughters and now have a grandchild, and as my mother cared for me, I've learned there's always hope. And when you don't have hope, okay, that's what makes things hard. And so, again, when you can't do anything else, you can always have hope. Whoop. So these are the 10 that we have, and you will find them right here. I hope that, again, hope that my story has inspired you or has, because studies show when you hear a story that will cause action, right? And so I hope that when you are in a tough spot, that you will say, oh, this is what Diane did. Because, you know, my story might sound extraordinary, but so is yours. Okay, your story is just as extraordinary. You could be standing up here talking about these things because you have a chutes and ladders life probably like I do, right? So with that, I thank you for the time. I thank you for allowing me to tell my story. I hope you've got some leadership lessons. We skipped through a couple Mentimeter things, but I do want to ask, and I'll push you over to that. What other strategy did you find helpful as I told the story? When you're wrong, admit it. Include others. Love and serve others. Nurture your soul, or always have hope. When you're wrong, admit it. Thank you. And you know what, Sarah, I will give you a copy of this too, so that it can go into, so you have it, so people know. Okay, I don't want to take time for this because we're running over time, but the question is, now that you're armed with new strategies, what did I have on the rest of it? How do you feel about your future? I think that's what I have in there. So you're invited to put some words in here. Now you get some strategies. Powerful. I love that. Ooh, Siri wants to help me even. Promising. I love that. Ambitious. Oh, strong is getting bigger. I love that. I'll let you continue on. With that, keep adding your words, and we can take a look at it at the end. But I think that's it. So thank you for allowing me to share. And I hope that you can use some of these strategies as we move forward. Okay, so right now I'm going to pass, I have it written down somewhere, I'm going to pass the mic to, yes, that's who I'm going to pass it to. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Wow, Diane, thank you. That was remarkable. Yeah, so I have a 3-year-old daughter, and she belts it out in the car because she doesn't have that tape in her head yet. And I hope to provide her the same level of confidence that your mom has with you.
Yes.
So in 40 years, no matter who's in the car, she's still belting it out, no matter what her voice sounds like, right? So thank you, everyone, for attending, both here in Wisconsin as well as the other office and in the virtual world. So for the in-office folks, we're going to break it off into a panel discussion, and everyone virtually, thank you.